Hello sir, now I am going to tell you 5 CSS related interview question with answer. And first question is, what is flex layout? Difference between flex and grid layout. My answer is, flex layout is a flexible box layout that helps us to display our items layout in a more efficient way. It also helps us to align the item properly and give a space among the items even when their size is unknown or dynamic. Well, now I'm going to tell you the difference between flex and grid layout. And there, Flexbox has one dimension layout but grid has two dimension layout. Being one dimensional layout, Flexbox only deals with either columns or rows. But as we know, grid is two dimensional, which allows flexible width as a unit of length. This fulfills the limitation of flex. Flex direction allows us to align item vertically or horizontally, but CSS grid deploys fractional measure unit for grid fluidity and auto keyword functionality to automatically adjust columns or rows. Flexbox support content first while grid support layout first. The Flexbox layout is best suited to application component and small scale layout, while the grid layout is designed for larger scale layout that are not linear in design. My second question is, what is a box model and what are the different elements of a box model? My answer is, the CSS box model is a container that contains multiple properties including borders, margin, padding and the content itself. The different elements of a box model are content, the content of the box, padding to create space around the element inside any defined border, border, a border that goes around the padding and content, and margin, create space around the border. My third question is, what is a hover effect? What is the purpose of the active class? Or what is pseudo class? My answer is, the hover effect is the effect that is selected and styled when we mouse over the link or the item. Active is a pseudo class. The purpose of the active class is to specify and select an element based on a state, the active state, and is used to apply style to an element when it matches the state. Pseudo class. Since a pseudo class is a keyword that is used to add style to selectors, but only when those selectors meet certain conditions. Some pseudo classes are hover, focus, active, etc. The syntax of pseudo classes: selector, clone, pseudo class, curly bracket start, style, and then curly bracket end. My fourth question is, what are the different types of selectors in CSS? There are several types of selector in CSS and they are given below. Element selector. This selector selects HTML element based on element name. ID selector. This selector uses the ID attribute of an HTML element to select a specific element. Class selector. This selector selects HTML element with a specific class attribute. Universal selector. The universal selector selects all HTML elements on the page. Grouping selector. The grouping selector selects all the HTML elements with the same style definition. Difference between class selector from ID selector is, ID selector is only used to identify one single element. On the other hand, class selector can be used to identify more than one element. My fifth question is, what is CSS specificity? My answer is, the way by which the browser decides which CSS property values are the most relevant to an element and therefore will be applied is called specificity. If there are two or more CSS rules in an element, the selector which has the highest specificity will win and its style will be displayed. And that's all from me. Thank you very much.